Two decorated black female veterans just wanted a quiet post-deployment reunion. Instead, a rookie cop with an ego accused them of trespassing in their own hometown, getting a lesson in law, honor, and respect he'd never forget. The sign for the Sparrow's Nest Diner flickered under a gray Tennessee sky, a beacon of greasy spoons and sweet tea right off Highway 41. Inside, the air was thick with the comforting scent of sausage gravy and day-old coffee. The booths, lined with mint green vinyl cracked like ancient maps, held the town's morning regulars. At the counter, Brenda, a woman who'd been wiping down these same tables for 30 years, hummed along to a crackling radio. Captain Lena Williams let out a hearty laugh that turned heads, a sound too full of life for the diner's sleepy murmur. "I'm telling you, Maya, the paperwork at the VA for women's health is more complicated than defusing a bomb. I'd rather take my chances with the bomb." Across the table, Sergeant Maya Jackson offered a wry smile. Calm and observant where Lena was fiery and expressive, she stirred her black coffee with precision. She wore a simple olive drab flight jacket, but the military spec watch on her wrist and the sharp, analytical way her eyes scanned the room spoke of her time as an Air Force logistics officer. "That's because you enjoy blowing things up, Lena. I, for one, appreciate a well-organized system. The VA just doesn't have one. System. It's chaos," Lena shot back, leaning forward. As a former Army combat nurse, she still carried the restless energy of someone used to thinking on her feet. "Remember Kandahar? When that sandstorm grounded everything? You rerouted that convoy and got my medical supplies to the front line with 2 hours to spare." Maya's smile widened slightly. "You said you needed them. So I got them. That was logistics. This," she gestured vaguely, "is bureaucracy." They fell into a comfortable silence, the kind shared between two women who had seen the worst of the world together and found solace in the simple act of sharing a meal in a place that felt like home. They'd grown up just 20 miles from here, enlisted a year apart, and found their way back to each other across continents and conflicts. This diner was their sanctuary, a place to be Maya and Lena, not Sergeant Jackson and Captain Williams. Brenda ambled over, her coffee pot leaving a trail of steam. "More for you, sweethearts." "Keep it coming, Brenda," Lena said, lifting her mug. "We've got years to catch up on." But just as Brenda turned away, the bell over the door jingled, a sharp, intrusive sound that cut through the morning calm. A man stepped inside. He was in his late 20s, with a broad build stuffed into a crisp deputy's uniform. The name tag read Renshaw. He didn't smile or nod at Brenda. He just scanned the room, his eyes sweeping past the old farmers and the young couple in the corner, before landing, and staying, on Maya and Lena. He moved with a stiff authority, his hand resting a little too casually on his duty belt, and began walking directly toward their booth. Deputy Renshaw stopped a few feet from their table, creating an invisible line of confrontation. His shadow fell across their plates of half-eaten eggs and biscuits. "Morning, ladies," he said, the word ladies dripping with a condescending sweetness that set Lena's teeth on edge. "You got IDs on you?" "No hello. No explanation. Just a demand." Lena, who had been mid-sip, slowly lowered her mug. "Excuse me. I need to see some identification," Renshaw repeated, his gaze fixed on Lena as if she were the sole problem. Maya placed a calming hand on Lena's arm, though her own heart had begun a slow, heavy beat. She kept her voice even, devoid of emotion. "Officer, is there a problem? Got a call about 2 suspicious individuals loitering near the diner." "Matched your description," he stated flatly. Lena let out a short, incredulous laugh. "Loitering? We're inside, eating breakfast. We've been here for an hour. Who exactly did we look suspicious to?" At a nearby table, a young woman named Bianca Ramirez, who had been composing a travel post for her Instagram, lowered her phone. She sensed the shift in the atmosphere, the way forks had stopped scraping plates, the way conversations had faded into whispers. This felt different. Wrong. Her thumb instinctively hovered over her camera app. Brenda stepped forward from behind the counter, her voice low but firm. "Deputy, these are good women. They've been coming here since they were girls." Renshaw ignored her completely, his focus unwavering. "Ma'am, it's not that complicated. Just show me your ID." His tone implied they were making things difficult, that their questioning of his authority was the real offense. Bianca's decision was made. She quietly propped her phone against a sugar dispenser and hit record. The lens captured Renshaw's aggressive posture, Lena's coiled tension, and Maya's unnerving stillness. Maya sighed, a sound of profound weariness. "Officer, I'm retired Air Force. My friend here is an Army captain. We're not loitering. We're catching up with family." Renshaw finally blinked. "You got a problem showing me who you are?" "I've got a problem with you walking into a full diner and singling out the only two black women in the room," Lena retorted, her voice rising. "You didn't speak to the staff. You didn't ask a single other customer. You walked straight to us." The deputy's jaw tightened. He glanced around, for the first time seeming to notice the eyes on him. The stares weren't just curious, they were judgmental. Maya looked him dead in the eye. Her movements were slow, deliberate, as she reached into her jacket pocket. "You want to see who we are? Fine." She placed her worn, blue military ID card on the table, face up. "Sergeant Maya Jackson, United States Air Force. Honorable discharge." A second later, Lena reached into her purse and did the same, her ID landing next to Maya's with a soft click. "Captain Lena Williams, United States Army. Active Reserve." He wanted to see who they were. Now he would. Deputy Renshaw stared at the two military IDs on the table as if they were forged documents. The plastic cards, bearing the seals of the United States Armed Forces, seemed to short-circuit his entire thought process. He didn't touch them. He just muttered, I'll need to run these." "Run them," Lena challenged, her voice ringing with indignation. "Call whoever you want. We're not going anywhere." Renshaw lifted his radio, his thumb fumbling for the transmit button. "Unit 24 to dispatch, I have a..." "Stand down, deputy." The voice was female, calm, and radiated absolute authority. It cut through the diner's tense silence like a surgeon's scalpel. Everyone turned. Framed in the doorway stood a woman in her late 40s, wearing the crisp uniform and silver bars of a sheriff's captain. Her name tag read Rostova. She took in the scene in a single, sweeping glance, Renshaw's defensive stance, the IDs on the table, the phone recording from a nearby stool, and the two black women in the booth, their faces a mixture of anger and exhaustion. Renshaw hesitated, his radio still in hand. "Captain, I was responding to a call." "I know," Rostova said, walking toward them, her boots making a steady, rhythmic sound on the linoleum floor. "I listened to the playback from my car. The call was from a blocked number. It reported two black individuals standing outside the diner. No mention of gender, no threats, no weapons. Nothing actionable. You escalated this the moment you walked through that door." She stopped beside the booth, turning her attention not to her deputy, but to Maya and Lena. She nodded once, a gesture of profound respect. "Sergeant Jackson. Captain Williams. I'm Captain Eva Rostova. I am so sorry for this." Lena leaned forward, elbows on the table. The anger in her hadn't cooled, it had sharpened into a fine point. "With all due respect, Captain Rostova, your deputy needs a lesson in the law he's sworn to uphold. Tennessee Code Annotated, Section 40-7-103. An officer can only demand identification if they have reasonable suspicion that a person has committed, is committing, or is about to commit a specific public offense. He never named one. We were committing breakfast, not armed robbery." Renshaw's face flushed a deep, mottled red. He looked to Rostova for help, but she offered none. On Bianca's phone, the live stream comments exploded. Go Queen. Read him his rights. OMG, that's a captain schooling a deputy. Yes. This is why we film. Get his badge number. These women are heroes. Rostova's gaze was cold as ice as she turned back to Renshaw. Procedure also dictates the use of discretion, Kyle. You bypassed the business owner, you ignored witnesses, and you targeted 2 patrons without a shred of probable cause. That's not just poor policing, it's a direct invitation for a civil action lawsuit against you and this department. The phrase, civil action lawsuit, hung in the air like a death sentence. Renshaw finally lowered his radio, his bravado crumbling into dust. Step outside with me, Rostova commanded, her voice leaving no room for argument. Now. She guided the disgraced deputy toward the door. As they passed Bianca, her phone captured Rostova's final words to him, a low, furious whisper. One video like this can end your career faster than a commendation ever builds it. You need to think about that. The diner door swung shut behind Captain Rostova and Deputy Renshaw, leaving a vacuum of stunned silence. It felt like the air was finally rushing back into the room. Lena exhaled a long, shaky breath. I swear, every few months. Same script, different actor. Maya watched the 2 figures through the diner window. At least this one had a competent director show up. Brenda slid 2 steaming cinnamon rolls onto their table. On the house, she whispered, her eyes glistening. You both eat. That captain will sort that boy out. The smell of warm icing was a small comfort. Across the room, Bianca ended her stream and approached their booth. That was live, she said softly. It's everywhere. Do you want me to take it down? Lena shook her head. Keep it up. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. Just then, an elderly black woman who had been sitting in a booth by the wall stood up. She walked over, her steps slow but deliberate. My name is Marcia, she said, her voice gentle but firm. My husband served in Vietnam. He used to say that some people only see the uniform, and some people only see the skin. It's rare to find folks who see the person who wore both. She looked at them with a deep, knowing sorrow. I am so sorry you were treated with such disrespect in your own home. Maya nodded, her throat tight. Thank you, ma'am. This isn't just for you, Marcia continued, placing a small, weathered wooden case on their table. She opened it. Inside was a perfectly folded American flag, the kind given at a military funeral. The colors were faded, but it was immaculate. My husband, Earl, would have wanted you to have this. He said it belongs with people who know what it cost. Lena, who had faced down armed men without flinching, looked speechless. She reached out a hand but didn't touch it. Ma'am, we can't accept this. You must, Marcia insisted. Because you reminded this whole diner what real service and dignity look like. Before they could respond, the door opened again. It was a young man, no older than 17, clutching a notebook. My name's Terrence, he stammered, his eyes wide. I go to Clarksville High. I saw the video online, it's going viral. Would it be okay if I wrote about what happened for our school paper? The real story. Lena glanced at Maya, who gave a nearly imperceptible nod. Lena turned back to the boy. If you promise to tell the truth, son, you write whatever you need to. Terrence's face lit up, as if he'd just been handed the most important mission of his life. The ripple, started by a single act of prejudice, was already spreading, washing over the town in ways no one could have predicted. 15 minutes later, the ripples turned into a wave. A news van from WKR News in Nashville pulled into the parking lot, its satellite dish unfolding like a metallic flower. The reporter, Denise Larkin, was professional and cautious, but the cameraman's lens felt like a new kind of weapon. They were interviewing Bianca when the diner door opened for what felt like the dozenth time. This time, it was Sheriff Nolan Keene, the head of the entire county department. He was in his late 50s, a man whose face was a roadmap of long patrol days. He wore cowboy boots with his uniform and walked in alone, without a press handler or a phalanx of deputies. The news camera swung toward him immediately. He ignored it. His eyes found Maya and Lena. "Mind if I say something?" he asked Denise Larkin, but he was looking at the two veterans. She gestured for him to proceed. Sheriff Keene took 2 steps toward the center of the diner. "I've watched the footage. All of it," he said, his voice carrying through the room. "And I'll say it right here, on the record, what happened in this diner today should not have happened. It was wrong." Murmurs rippled through the booths. He looked directly at Maya and Lena. "You served this country with honor. You came home and asked for nothing more than a quiet breakfast, and you were met with suspicion and disrespect. As the sheriff of this county, the failure is mine. And I apologize." He wasn't reading from a script. The words were heavy, genuine. "Deputy Renshaw has been placed on administrative leave, effective immediately," Keene continued. "But this isn't about one deputy. This is about our mindset. It's about a system that allowed a young officer to see a threat where he should have seen heroes. That is a systemic problem, and we need to face it." Lena looked him square in the eye. "That's the first thing you've said that sounds like progress, Sheriff." Keene nodded. "I'm not here to spin. I'm here to fix." He reached into his shirt pocket and pulled out a folded letter. "I've drafted a formal, public apology from the department. But I wanted to hand it to you both first." He extended the envelope. Maya accepted it, placing it on the table next to their IDs and the flag case. A trinity of symbols: service, identity, and now, accountability. Denise, the reporter, seized the moment. "Sheriff, the public is calling for firings, for protests. What's your response to their anger?" Keene didn't flinch. "They have every right to be angry. It's not their job to stay calm. It's our job to listen, and to earn back their trust." He looked back at the women in the booth. "Apologies are just words. Action is what matters. I am formally announcing the creation of a new Community and Policing Relations Advisory Board. And I'm asking you both if you would be willing to be its first members. Help us change things. We clearly need your voice." The offer hung in the air, stunning the room into silence. A job offer, born from an insult. Lena let out a dry chuckle. "Didn't expect that over a plate of eggs." "You've earned it," the sheriff said simply. By late afternoon, the news vans were gone and the parking lot was empty. Inside the sparrow's nest, the air was finally still. Maya and Lena sat at their cleared table, the folded flag in its case resting between them like a sleeping guardian. Brenda came over and sat in the booth across from them, her shift finally over. "You know," she said, her voice full of wonder, "that's the first time in 30 years I've ever seen a sheriff apologize to someone in this diner." "How'd it feel?" Maya asked. "Like overdue homework finally turned in," Brenda replied. "Still waiting to see the grade." The weight of the day settled on them. They hadn't asked for this fight, but they hadn't backed down from it either. They had simply demanded the respect they had earned 1,000 times over, in places far from home. "You know," Lena said, her voice softer now, "this kind of thing, it chips away at you. A look here, a comment there. A call that says you look suspicious for ordering pancakes. One piece at a time." "It does," Maya agreed, her gaze distant. "But when you respond with calm, with facts, with the whole weight of your history behind you, it builds something instead." She looked at Lena, a deep and unbreakable understanding passing between them. "Respect doesn't start with a badge. It starts with how you treat people who owe you nothing." She picked up the sheriff's letter, still unopened. "What happened today didn't shock me. But the way this town reacted," she glanced at the flag case given to them by Marcia, maybe that surprised me. Lena grinned, a real, tired grin. Yeah. I didn't see the flag coming. They both laughed, a sound that wasn't about pushing pain away, but about acknowledging that they were still here, still whole. The diner was just a diner, but for a few hours, it had become something else. It became a mirror, Lena mused. A mirror for the whole country, Maya added. What we reflect back, that's up to us. What happened at the Sparrow's Nest is more than just a viral video. It's a conversation we need to have. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and please, let's keep the discussion respectful. What can we all do to ensure respect is given to everyone who serves, regardless of their gender or race? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that matter.